Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Happy 4 o'clock. Little Dua Lipa to get us going, get the blood pumping. You can always count on music you can move to if you get in early. The room always opens around 3:50 or so, maybe 3:52, depending on the songs I have to play that day. You can always come in and boogie before we sit for 2 hours and fill our brains. I mean, frankly, if you want to boogie throughout the 2 hours, I encourage that as well. It may help. Spontaneous dance is always appreciated in the Ignite classroom. All righty, so good afternoon. It is so lovely to see you all. It's so lovely to be here. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Rick Scott. I am the operating partner, principal broker, and overall do-it guy at Keller Williams Realty in Stamford, Westport, Ridgefield, Danbury, and Newtown. I'm going to be your host, guide, and instructor for the next 14 or 15 sessions, depending on how many we actually get through, which will be Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 4 to 6 over the course of the next 5 weeks. Right? You saw that schedule in the email. We will adhere to that as much as we possibly can. I love that you're all here. I see some new faces. I see some returning faces. I love that the returning faces have returned, because what I can tell you is that for those of you who this is your first time through, those returning faces will give you a welcome break from my voice and give some needed and added perspective. But they also bring a level of experience to the table, right? And so you get to have I would never say old faces. I don't see any old faces, not a one. I see youthful, vibrant, cheerful. You can fill in the next couple of blanks, faces, right? And so it's kind of fun when we get to learn from each other, right? And when we have experienced agents come and join us in the Ignite room, there is just so much of that happens. So I'm excited for all of that. A couple of quick housekeeping items. Normally when we're in class, which frankly, I really thought we would be doing this Ignite in person again. And we made a decision at kind of the last minute to keep it digital for at least one last time. We are now hoping and pushing for that flip of the year Ignite, because we finish just towards the end, towards the first week of November. We'll take a couple of weeks off and then likely wait until after the holiday season to come back. But we're hoping for that January kickoff to be in classrooms so we can actually be in person again, but thought it was best for everyone and safest at the moment to do one more version of digital. To that, for those of you who have been through this course before, we're going to do something a little different today. And we're going to do something a little different because when we're digital, it is a little bit harder to be A, as personal, but B, as interactive as we would be in the classroom, right? And it's important to me that we are as interactive as possible, that you're a part of this learning experience in terms of discussion and questions. So first and foremost, if you ever have a question, either raise your little digital hand or when your camera's on, just wave at me, or unmute and I'll see you pop up on my list, or pop something in the chat if you're not in a place where you can actually speak it. Please don't hold back any questions. Any time for questions is appropriate. I may have to finish something that I'm going through and then kind of hit your question, but do note that I encourage all of that. If anything that is unclear, don't hesitate to stop me and ask that question or make that comment, right? Again, your participation at a high level is kind of required to make this sing. To that, for those of you who have chosen to hide behind your names or pictures of your pretty selves, I do encourage cameras to be on at all times. It just makes it more fun when I can see you and you can see everybody else. Look at that. We pressured Diana and Dung. And, we have all these people who just were pressured into that. I love that. There are some holdouts. I get it. So here's what we're going to do a little bit differently today. I want to start real quick with an intro. Sorry, I had this up and now I need to pop in one more thing. I want to start with an intro that Gary Keller is going to give you, and then move from there into just a quick discussion around what you heard in this video, but then pivot into, there we go, okay. Pivot into a conversation based on a document that I'm going to put on the screen, and that we're all just going to kind of run through reading. I have like 30 points to kind of kick us off. And I know 30 is a lot, but there's 29 of us. So if we each get one, and all I'm asking you to do is read it out loud, right? You don't have to necessarily explain it, but to give us all a taste of what participation actually looks like, I'm going to ask for your participation right up front. And we'll get ourselves talking to each other. We'll get ourselves in discussion and model for yourselves that participation. Sound like a good plan? Some of you aren't sure. That's okay. We'll get there, right? I'll know there are 31 of us in the room. I'll know when I come back from the video who wasn't really into the whole now we're going to have a conversation thing, because you're the ones who are going to say, okay, I'm out early. My hope is that no one's out early. I encourage you to hang in there. Nobody in this room bites, I promise that. So let me introduce you to a man that has certainly changed my life over the course of the last 17 years. And if you let him, the concepts he discusses will change yours. Mr. Gary Keller.
Hi, I'm Gary Keller. This course will allow you to get off to a fast start you can build on. Because if you repeated the principles every 90 days for a year, believe me, you have an awesome first year. And just as important, you would have built the foundation and momentum for your entire career. It is practical, realistic, and easy to apply. It's about the fundamentals that determine your level of success in the business of real estate. From our research with top agents, we have found that they too started their careers with these fundamentals, and they continue to do them along with their teams to this very day. And it's not hard. It just requires a little focused effort, a few hours every day. Now, there is really just one way to achieve the goal. It's lead generation. Other skills are important, yet without leads to work with, your skills won't mean a thing. Dealing with business never takes precedence over what? Finding business. Never. Research shows that top producing agents make lead generation their #1 priority and the one thing they make sure they always get done. You can do this. And when you do, you will get the leads, the relationships, the experiences, the career, and the income that you want and deserve. Go get them, and good luck.
All righty. Thank you, Gary. We appreciate you. It's like that background music too. It's kind of rocking, wasn't it? All righty. So what'd you hear? Give me your ahas from what Gary just said to you. There was a bunch in that 90 seconds.
Make lead generation your #1 priority.
Yeah, make lead generation your #1 priority. And Donna, he actually went on to say that finding business always takes precedent over what?
Keeping, I don't know, actually, it clicked on my end. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so the answer there, anybody else?
Doing business.
Yeah, the business that you're actually doing, right?
Oh, doing business, okay.
And here's what I'm going to tell you. That is a trap that real estate agents make every single day, with the thought that the current client, the current transaction should always take precedent over finding tomorrow's business. And that's completely backwards, right? Your schedule, and we're going to talk through schedule management as we move through likely tomorrow. Your schedule needs to start with finding new business every single day. Because when you start with finding new business every day, your funnel is always full. If you stop doing that to handle the new transaction that you just put together, or handle the buyer that keeps calling and calling and calling, or handle the quote unquote emergency that has come up, guess what? You do that one day and then you decide to do it the next day, and your business is doing what it's doing, whether it's growing or faltering, right? You're spending so much time handling all the current business, and then all of a sudden that either goes away or closes. One of those two things will happen. And what do you replace it with? Right? Nothing quickly, because you haven't been cultivating additional business. So the point here is, you're going to hear me say this numerous times. You might as well write it down today and keep memorizing it. There is no such thing as a real estate emergency. Oh, whoops. Sorry, guys. I don't know how that happened. Suddenly I was just a void. I was the voice. I'm back. Right? There's no such thing as a real estate emergency. Can anyone think of a real estate emergency? Prove me wrong. I'll tell you what I oftentimes hear. What I oftentimes hear when I ask that question is, well, you know, if the house were on fire, that would probably be an emergency. Well, yes, I would agree that is an emergency, but it's not a real estate emergency. I certainly hope you're not calling me if your house is on fire. That's what we have 911 for, right? When you smell smoke, don't call your realtor. You may want to add that to your buyer and seller consult, right? It's good information for them to have. Make sense? All right, what else did you hear from Gary's video?
Can I say something?
Yes, Silva.
My client's house flooded and they called me. I was the first one to call.
Yeah, well, we probably need to educate them a little bit differently, right? But Silva makes an interesting point, right? Sometimes that makes us feel like, wow, so they thought of me. That's great. If they called to say, this is happening, we don't know what to do, and you are a resource to them to go ahead and give them information, right? That's awesome. What I would say is, what can we do proactively to be that resource giver, such that their first call was not necessarily to me, but they grabbed my handbook that they got at closing about what to do if, right? Who to call in these situations. And now they're still seeing my name and they're still thinking about me because they got all that information from me, but they don't have to call me, right?
Okay.
That's the next step.
Rick, I had a listing and my clients were out of town when the hurricane came through. Mm-hmm. So I did have, in essence, I mean, I couldn't prevent anything, but I had to go over and check out and make sure the house didn't have any flooding or damage for them because they were out of town.
Right. So that Dana makes a good point, right? And if it's okay, I'm going to just adjust the words that you said a little bit, because you didn't have to go over and check on the house. You chose to go over and check on the house.
Well, we were 2 weeks from the closing. I wanted to make sure we'd still be closing for my own sake too.
Right. So I get it, and yet that was still a choice. You made a choice, and here's the struggle that I have when we make choices like that, because you could put yourself in danger. And what I mean by putting yourself in danger is that by going over and making sure that something has happened or not happened at a house that you're the listing agent on, if you haven't been hired as a property manager and you start behaving like a de facto property manager, there could be liability attached to that on the tail end. Right? I'm not going to go into that further now. I just want to go on record as saying we'll get to some of those conversations, right? And yet at the same time, what Dana described was a choice she made because of weather. Maybe she went and did a favor to the sellers. Not a real estate emergency. What's the point I'm looking to make? Is that nothing should derail you from getting up every day and searching for new business. The quote unquote emergencies that you think are on the table, they'll still be there at 11 o'clock when you're done with your lead generation. They don't go away. And here's what's fun. Sometimes if you don't get to them until 11 or 11:30, they've actually solved themselves. Right? So then the phone call you get to make is, hey, how can I help? And the answer is, you know what? We solved that problem on our own. Excellent. Anything else you need right now? Nope. Okay. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Right? So be really cognizant of how you spend your time. Because a lot of us do a lot of things that we think are part of this role, part of this job, that I will tell you one by one, I'm going to knock them down and say, yeah, that's not really your job. Yeah, that's not really your job either. Yeah, that's not really your job. You choose to make it your job. And I'm not making you wrong about that. And yet, I am encouraging you to look at what your role actually is from a slightly different vantage point. And again, we're gonna get to this larger conversation probably tomorrow or Thursday. Anything else from Gary before we move on? Yes, Donna.
I like that he says many successful agents have built their careers on these fundamentals.
Yeah, there's nothing new, guys. I hope you weren't coming here to say, oh, well, what's new? What's new in the exciting world of real estate? The answer is nothing. Instead, what might be new are the decisions that you make and the activities that you choose to focus on. That might be new. Right? But there are no new activities. There's no new source of business out there. There's no new magic bullet about, oh, look, if you just do this, you make tons of money. It's all the same. The good news is we're going to give you those fundamentals and work through with you each of those foundational concepts and strategies so that you can then choose how you're going to build your business. Now's a good time to just push the pause button for a moment and remind everyone that if you are within the sound of my voice, you minimally wear two different hats, right? You wear the hat of the CEO of your own company. Everyone recognize that they are now business owners. But you also wear the hat of, for most of you, your company's sole employee. And sometimes you have to put on a different hat to figure out exactly what activities you need to focus on. About 2 weeks from tonight, I'm going to ask you a question. So I'm going to give it to you now. You can jot it down. You can kind of look at it over the course of the next 2 weeks. And the question I'm going to ask you 2 weeks from tonight is, does the CEO you, in reflecting upon the activities of the sole employee you, have an employee that they're looking to keep or looking to can? Right? What would CEO you do 2 weeks in now that you've hired you to go ahead and build a real estate career, to do the activities that generate buyers and sellers? That's not a judgment that I'm going to pass on you. Who am I? I'm just some guy who's here to help you make money. You have to be cognizant of the fact that you have to wear both of those hats. Make some judgments as the CEO, and then figure out how you're going to make adjustments as the sole employee in your business. Make sense? All right. So as I said, we're going to do something a little different tonight, and it starts right now. I'm going to put something on the screen, and we're literally just going to zip around the room. We're going to get to everybody. So unmute, and when you're unmuted, I'll just know that that's you kind of raising your hand, and I'll call on you as we go down the list. I just want you to read each of these points. I'll speak to each of them for you. But let's start here. Here's a fun participation exercise. Ooh, baby. Who's excited? All right. we're going to have to work on excitement, because that wasn't terribly good. I hope you're better realtors than you are excited humans. I know. The Brady Bunch screens suck all of the fun out of everything. I get it. All right. So let's take a quick look. Everyone can see that on their screen. Unfortunately, when I put that on my screen, I lose most of you. So I'm going to have to rely on the participant list, which means you have to unmute in order for me to see that you're ready to read. Who wants to start? Number one, just read it out. Christy, go ahead.
Leadership in business development is about changing the mindset around how you spend your time.
Oh, man. We could almost just stop there and spend the rest of our time tonight talking about that one, right? Leadership in business development, business growth, business everything is about how you spend your time and how you think about spending your time. When we come to schedule management, that's going to ring really true for you. Number two, go ahead, Sheena.
All right, number two. The forces and pressures of growth feel awesome and challenging if you want growth, and feel terrible and frustrating if you don't want it.
Oh, baby. Thank you so much for that one, Sheena. You know what? We got to come back to the big screen for that one. The forces and pressures of growth feel awesome and challenging if you desire growth, and feel terrible and frustrating if you don't. Let me just make a comment about that. Right? Because that one to me speaks very clearly to accountability. Yeah. It speaks to doing the things that you know you need to do and doing the things that you say you're going to do. I'll tell you, with agents that I coach privately, there are some that raise their hand and say, I really want a high level of accountability because I want to achieve at a high level. And I can tell you that those words are not true.
Yeah.
Because the actions then that get followed up are not accountable actions. We're going to talk a smidge more about this, right, when we go through our 6 personal perspectives before we finish today. But I will tell you that there will be times where you're going to have some homework to do, right? This isn't about coming and listening to me for 2 hours, 3 days a week. It's about learning some systems, learning some strategies, and going and doing them. My expectation for each of you is that you come out of this course not just smarter, with more strategies under your belt, and perhaps a broader mindset around growing your business. My expectation is that you come out of this 4 or 5 weeks together with business, with new buyers, and with listings. Right? So the idea of the things we're talking about over the course of our Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays together, they're action-based. Don't make this a cerebral event. Make it an activity. Show up only to be able to leave and say, okay, what do I have to do based on that 2 hours? Because if you'll focus on what you have to do, it will change your results. Now, sometimes you'll have homework, as I said, and sometimes I'm going to ask for the homework and we're going to talk about homework. And sometimes you're going to choose not to do it. And sometimes I might call you out on that. And sometimes that'll frustrate you. But I want you to understand all that is in that moment is me just taking a firmer stand for you and your income than you are currently taking. That's all it is. It doesn't mean I'm mean. It doesn't mean that, because again, I mean, who am I? I'm just the guy. You can just as easily hit end. You see the red button in the lower right-hand corner? It says end. When you tire of me, you can just push that button and I'm gone. But I want you to think about it. I want you to think, who's taking a stand for you and your income? It's okay if it's not you at this moment. It's okay. Just recognize, though, that when those of us around you do take a stand for you and your income, sometimes it feels ooky. And Sheena, you know that word ooky? Well, you do now. You should write that down. Right?
Ooky? Yeah.
Good word, ooky. And what Sheena just brought us through was the idea of all of those forces and pressures. When you want growth, man, do they fuel you. When you don't want that, you run away from it. So recognize how you feel about that. Know what that's saying to you and how you have to change your mindset. All right, number 3. Go ahead, Stephen Lawrence. Oh, I guess I should put it back on the screen. Yeah. Huh? There we go.
Stop wasting time.
Oh, praise the Lord. Stop wasting time. There is nothing that drives me crazier than wasting time, right? And to make sure that we don't waste time, that's all we have to say about that one. Number 4. Who's going to give us number 4? Go ahead, Courtney.
Businesses are built to earn a profit and nothing else.
Yeah, so let's remember that as well. Businesses are built to earn a profit, nothing else. Which means the fact that you've started a real estate business, you need to be mindful of it making money. And remember that your business making money has not only to do with you having closings, but it also has to do with how you spend the money that comes in, right? Because profit is income minus expenses and you have something left. That's profit. Oftentimes, as real estate agents, we think that the closing check is our profit. No, that's not the way businesses run, because businesses have expenses. So let's be clear, businesses are built to earn a profit. You earn profit by listing buyers and sellers and then selling them houses or selling their houses, creating closing opportunities, getting paid, and then managing your expenses to create a profit. That's how a business owner looks at profit. Number 5. Go ahead, Donna.
When you demonstrate high value, people stop complaining or worrying about what you're worth and instead just sit back and get ready to enjoy the ride.
Oh, baby. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? I'll tell you, newer real estate agents or less experienced listing agents oftentimes worry about the commission they charge. And I will tell you that this one's on here because, man, I learned this lesson, I think, better than anybody. By the way, one of the main reasons why I actually am good for you over the course of the next 4 or 5 weeks is that I have done just about everything wrong that there is to do wrong. I've also done just about everything right that there is to be done right. I've done it both ways, right? And so what I get to bring to you is an experience of, yeah, that may sound like the best path to get that kind of result. And yet, trust me when I tell you, I wasted a lot of time, effort, and money on that. Here's a faster path. Allow me to be your shortcut right through a lot of this. Because I've done it all wrong. And I've also taken a course correction and done a lot of it right. So with a commission conversation, what Donna just read is so true. It's not about how much you charge. It's about what you bring to the table. It's about your value proposition. Because when you walk in confidently to a buyer consult or a seller consult, and you present yourself confidently with a value proposition to back up whatever it is you're going to charge, what I've learned over time is that people stop asking about commission. Because you just walked in and showed them you were the one. They do, they buckle in and think, oh, this is going to be fun. Let's get started, man. Let's do it. So for those of you who are either in your head living in fear of the commission conversation, or if you've been in the field and you've had commission issues come up, recognize that all that's saying is you need to raise your value proposition and raise your level of confidence. When you raise both of those two things versus lowering your commission, because that's often the answer we go to. Well, I'll just do it for less. What if you did it? What if you did more for the same? Make sense? All right, number 6. Who's unmuted? I mean,
if you focus on listing count and manage it throughout the year, everything else will show up.
Oh yeah, that's another really good one. It's all about listings, 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 and more listings. We're going to talk through that very, very in depth, likely 1 week from tonight when we start our listing conversation. Right? If you focus on listing count and manage it throughout the year, everything else shows up. And what I find is that new agents to the business or people looking to relaunch their business have the opposite focus. They focus on the buy side, right? And it just doesn't bring you as far as fast as when you focus on the list side. So as we go through source of business, and then we go through our listings unit, pay close attention, because that's where we're going to look for you to focus. Focus on that listing count, get ahead of that. Everything else starts to show up. Number 7. Go ahead, Cal.
Communication and gratitude are the root of the relationship side of the business.
Oh yeah. Over communicate and be overly grateful all the time, and you will do fine. Don't make assumptions that a single point of communication or a single event of communication is enough. I would encourage you to over communicate to the point that your clients are like, okay, like Rick, really, thank you, but I think 3 times a day for a conversation is probably a little much. Let them come back to you and say, tone it down, tone it down. Well said, whoever that was. I could not agree more. That was brilliantly said. Number 8. Go ahead, Dave.
Do your clients feel the mind-blowing customer service experience immediately or ever?
Do your clients feel the mind-blowing customer service experience immediately after they hire you or as they're hiring you? The better question, however, is do they ever feel it? What does mind-blowing customer service look like? How are you developing that in your business? What sets you apart from the 1.4 other real estate agents in the United States? Does it ever feel like every 3rd person you know has a real estate license? That's because just about every 3rd person you know has a real estate license. Which means if you can't separate yourself and distinguish yourself from others, you have a hard time being remembered. And if you have a hard time being remembered, you have a hard time being hired, right? So I want you right from the very first day today to have in the back of your mind that what you're building and developing is a business that delivers right from the get-go, mind-blowing customer service. What does that experience look like? We'll brainstorm around that towards the end of our time together. All right, number 9. Go ahead, Dana.
2 pillars should be delivering 2/3 or better of your business. Pillars, they just spit out appointments, or they are not pillars.
Yeah. So that's a precursor to our source of business conversation, where we're going to go through each of the sources of business and give you not just a definition of what it looks like, some strategies to really maximize each of the sources of business and make sure that you are engaging in them at the highest level to get the best results. Most businesses have 2 or maybe 3 pillars that the business stands on. How do you know it's a pillar? A pillar, like your database, it might be a pillar, right? That's kind of the non-negotiable one. If your database is not spitting out appointments left and right, you have some work to do to make sure that your database starts spitting out appointments. Because for everyone in this room, your database should be a pillar, and pillars spit out appointments. Number 10, John, go ahead.
If we are not modeling best practices, then we are spreading bad habits to others.
Oh, yes, indeedy. Best practices, best practices, best practices. Look, guys, there's not one way to do any of this. However, there are some best practices. And what we're going to discuss in this room together are those best practices. There might be 17 different ways to do an open house. However, there are things that when done consistently and at a high level, bring you better results than the other 16. We're going to focus on that one. Because if it's not a best practice, you may well just be spreading bad habits.
Then you've got Medicare, you've got dental, hearing.
Who's got Medicare in the background? If you have Medicare in the background, do me a favor, just pop on mute or push pause on the Medicare. We'll handle Medicare maybe in session 7. Number 11. Go ahead, Herm. Number 11.
$73 million. Warren Buffett says, invest in what you know. You are a real estate professional. Do you own investment real estate? Yes, I do.
So that's excellent. So here's the question, right? The question becomes, if what we do is real estate, what's our chosen path of wealth building? If it's not real estate, why not? Right? Do you have more validity in your business if you jump in with 2 feet and get behind that business and start putting your money in that business? All right. Number 12, Connie.
The fastest path to net $1 million is to clear your head, then start hiring someone talented every 90 days.
Yeah, so this one can be controversial. I'm going to spend a minute on it. The fastest path to $1 million, start hiring someone talented every 90 days. We believe when we get into real estate that it's a solo sport. And what I will tell you is what I have learned over time is that it's a solo sport if you choose to grow very slowly and have some kind of cap. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to create this big, huge team. I'm not saying that. However, hiring someone talented every 90 days could be an administrative person. It could be hiring a leads person, right? Or paying for leads. It could be hiring someone to make sure that your lawn is mowed so that you don't have to spend 2 hours on the weekend when you need to be out with buyers mowing the lawn. It could be making sure that you have somebody to clean your house so that you can spend that 3 hours of time lead generating for more business. Business growth is about how you spend your time. And number 12 simply redirects us and reminds us of that. Number 13. Go ahead, Meredith.
You have got to get over it in terms of hiring a full-time assistant. When done properly, that person will add 18 to 24 closings to your year.
Yeah. Now, if you just got your license like 27 minutes ago, that's hard to hear, right? It's hard to hear. I just got my license. Why is he talking about a full-time assistant? I haven't even signed my first listing yet. I haven't made a dime in real estate. Yeah, I get that. And yet we're going to have a conversation around somebody by the name of Pat Hyben, who, when I met Pat a number of years ago, he had a 40-person team that he was bringing over to Keller Williams down in Maryland. He wrote a book called 6 Steps to 7 Figures. And one of his first steps was what he recognized was his time was far better spent in front of people at appointments than doing all the paperwork stuff. So as a new agent, he didn't hire 1 full-time assistant, he hired 2. And then just figured out how to go and have enough appointments to make sure they got paid. And his business took off like a rocket ship because he was not distracted by all the stuff that too many business owners distract themselves with, which is all the paperwork. Just saying, when you hire the right person, that person adds 18 to 24 closings to your year. Those are accurate statistics. Number 14. Go ahead, Courtney.
Do you plan for low-end pay and expect high-end talent? You get what you pay for every time.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all experienced that, right? We didn't want to pay so-and-so to work at our house. We went with the cheaper option. And then we recognized about a week into them doing the work at our house, why they were the cheaper option. When they cancel on you, don't show up, don't communicate, do shoddy work, right? You get what you pay for. And the reason this one's on here is because I want you to recognize that part of that has everything to do with you being the sole employee of your business. As the CEO, you have to remember that you get what you pay for. As the CEO, how are you compensating the sole employee you of that business? I hope well, right? Just as a hint, both of those people are you. So you get to make decisions about that. You work hard, compensate yourself well, because you get what you pay for. Number 15, go ahead, Cal.
Successful people are willing to do what others are unwilling to do.
Yeah, so if you walk away from here tonight with nothing else, zero else that you've heard or learned, walk away with number 15. Successful people are willing to do what others are unwilling to do. Success comes from doing the things that bring you out of comfort, that bring you from that easy entrepreneurial place to a more purposeful style. Successful people are willing to do. Doesn't say able, please note. It says willing. They're willing to step in and do the things that others are unwilling to do. Are you willing to carve out a couple of hours a day to talk to your database? Are you willing to host events for your database? Are you willing to dial expireds? Are you willing to host open houses? And I don't mean an open house every once in a while. I mean open houses like 2 to 4 a weekend if you're looking to make money from the open house side of things. Are you willing to invest on the social media side and on the marketing and advertising side? Are you willing to spend the time it takes to create opportunities in social media, which means you're paying attention, commenting, bringing conversations offline? Are you willing to do the things, the activities that create success? Number 16. Go ahead, Axel.
The proper role for a virtual assistant is to support the full-time executive assistant. See number 14 above. Yeah, right. So oftentimes we jump into virtual assistants. I don't love virtual assistants as your sole means of administrative support. However, there is a time and a place for them. And when you're ready, we'll have that conversation. Number 17. Go ahead, Andrea.
What if you decided to have a seller appointment every day?
I think Andrea got the best one. What if you just decided to have a seller appointment every single day? And then built a system to feed that. Right? It's just a decision. So if you're going to make decisions about taking listings or about finding new business, why wouldn't you just make a decision about doing it every single day and grabbing that appointment? Is that your expectation of yourself? Have you made that decision? Or do you allow yourself to go through a day, 2 days, a week, a month, and not have anything show up? Recognize those are choices that you make. I know that's hard to hear sometimes, but those are choices that you make because you choose the activities that you focus on. Remember I said there's nothing new in real estate. There are activities that bring opportunity and appointments to you. And then there are activities that don't. If you focus on the ones that don't, or you don't do activities, that's what shows up, right? So what if you just decided to have a seller appointment every single day and built a business around that? John, bring us the next one.
Leaders are readers. Earners are learners. What are you reading right now? Or what are you learning? To answer that question, I'm reading 48 Laws of Power.
Love it. 48 Laws of Power. Put the title and the author, if you would, in the chat. P.S. If anybody ever has any good book suggestions, pop them in the chat and bring that to our attention, because leaders are readers and earners are learners. So you've got to dive into reading for improvement's sake and learning something new every day. Number 19, go ahead, Donna.
Oops, sorry. I was typing in the chat. Which one? 19?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't be afraid to fail. Just fail faster.
Yeah. So here's a book. Somebody can put this in the chat. Failing Forward by John Maxwell. Failing Forward by John Maxwell. If you've never read that book, I encourage you to read that sucker. Because what John Maxwell talks to us about in that book is you don't have to have fear. Because the only thing to have fear around is the unknown and failure, right? And if you take that off the table, you don't have to be afraid to fail. Just fail faster. If you're going to screw something up, do it right out of the gate and then just go and fix it. It's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you stand up, right? So don't be afraid to fail. Just start failing faster. Number 20. Donna, bring us number 20. It's my favorite one.
Quit whining and get to work.
Oh, Christmas Eve. Hallelujah on that one. Anybody feel like there's just way too much whining going on in the world? I don't know about the rest of you. I think it's all around us. I'm not sure why. Entitlement, I don't know why. But man, oh man, just quit whining and just get to work. Because that's where success lies, right? There is no success with whining. There's just more whining. Number 21. Go ahead, Cal.
Do you have uphill goals and downhill habits? No one ever goes uphill accidentally. Be on purpose.
Yeah, purposeful action is what we need to focus, right? And the good news is that everything that we're going to talk about in our time together is about purposeful action. By the way, that's John Maxwell. Do you have uphill goals and downhill habits? You can't go uphill accidentally. You can only roll downhill, right? Going uphill takes more effort. Be on purpose about where you want to go. Number 22, Stephen, go ahead.
I'm busy translates into I don't understand what to do with my time.
Oh, anybody ever call somebody and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so busy? I gotta tell you what, I do everything I can not to ever say those words. I'm busy. Because what it says to everybody on the outside is, I just don't know what to do with my time. I don't know how to manage my schedule. That's what busy means. My goodness, I have names that come into mind where every time you call them, they're like, yeah, you know, can I call you back? I'm just really busy. Here's my thought. Who cares? Who isn't busy? It doesn't make you special or unique or successful. It just says you don't know how to manage your time. Number 23. Go ahead, Silva.
I had a question. How would you say I'm busy in a different productive way?
What I've pivoted to is I am grateful for all the things that are currently on my plate. I am grateful for the full plate that I am managing. I don't think about, because those of you who know me also know that I don't say a word that many of you still say. It starts with an O and it ends with
overwhelmed. Overwhelmed.
That's the word. And when I say I won't say it, I won't say it. I wait for you guys to guess it because I'll give you clues, but I just stopped saying that word. Because what I find is that word is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you say it, the more you feel it. And so I just pivoted away from it. And now I say the same kind of thing, Silva, is I'm just grateful to have all this opportunity in front of me. I am grateful for the full plate that I have. Does that mean that I never want to pull my hair out? No, there are probably spots that if I showed you, you could see where I've actually succeeded in pulling some of my hair out. Right? And yet I refuse to allow my brain to feed that word and the emotion that goes with that word, because it's just depressing and it spirals you downward instead of lifting you up. Number 23, go ahead, Silva, while you're there.
Amplify your leadership. You will have more impact on more people.
Yeah. So here's the thing, guys. What you've chosen is a career in leadership. Being in real estate, being your own CEO, owning your own business, it is a career in leadership. And the faster you recognize that, and the more you start building the muscle of leadership, it will allow you to lead more people. And what that means is you get to lead more buyers and lead more sellers and lead more people that are attracted to you and your business to help you lead more buyers and lead more sellers. I think we oftentimes think as real estate agents that that's somebody else's role, right? Oh, that's the leader. That's the person who runs the office or who does. No, that's you. That's you. And leadership, regardless of what people may tell you, is not a natural skill for most people. Like your biceps, it's a muscle that you have to continue to work. You have to learn the skill and then work the muscle. So keep amplifying that. Number 24, who's unmuted? Go ahead, Stephen.
I can't afford to buy an investment property this year, sell more houses.
Yeah. And so that's a comment on if you feel like you're struggling financially and you can't afford X, I just put in there investment properties because why not? If you can't afford X this year, here's the good news about what you've chosen. All you have to do is go and sell another house. Here's my question for you. As the CEO of your own business, who puts the lid on the income that you can earn?
You do.
Only you. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think that's like more exciting to me than almost anything, is that I get to decide. I don't have to wait around for someone to decide that I've done a good job and give me a small bump or a bonus. I get to decide what I make. I get to decide my future. I get to decide my income. I get to decide how much extra I earn so I can go and build wealth and buy assets. All you have to do is sell more houses. And foundationally, all that means is plug into the systems that we're going to offer to you to do just that. And then just do it consistently. All right, we're down to the home stretch. Number 25. Go ahead. Who's out there? Dana, go ahead, 25.
What does your collateral material look like? Do you have a buyer's guide, a seller's guide, a real estate investing guide, a second/vacation home guide, a pay your kids' college tuition through real estate investing guide? You need these to create or support conversations.
Right, and so thank you for reading that. And here's what I mean by that. You need to think about yourself as a business, right? Your database needs to think about you as a business, not as a realtor. You have to bring the business owner mentality to that. The buyer's guide, the seller's guide, we're going to help you and show you some foundational tools that we can provide for you to give you a kickstart on some of those. And some of those you're going to have to create, right? Some of you are going to think, well, what if I did this? What if I did a how to stage your home guide? Because I'm really good at that. And you created that. What if you did PDF versions of those and hung them on your website and drove people to your website? What if you created a real estate investing guide and published the first half of a page as a Facebook paid ad or a post and said, hey, for more information or for the rest of this great information, come to my seminar, which I'm doing next week. But you can utilize all these tools only when you actually have them. And it surprises me, frankly, how many seasoned real estate agents, when you say, well, where's your buyer's guide? Where's your seller's guide? Where are some of the marketing materials you use, your collateral material for your business? And they look at you like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any of that. I think you should get it. Number 26. Go ahead, Dave.
If you have more buyers than you know what to do with, you need a showing assistant or a buyer's agent. You do not need to drop your listings focus in order to service those buyers.
I am so tempted to ask you to read that again. I won't. However, it's that important. It's that important. Guys, as you're building your business, here's what's real. In your search for listings, buyers just show up. You can't shake them. They just show up. And because they take so much more of your time than the list side does, we oftentimes get confused and think, okay, well, now I need to go and service all of these buyers instead of maintaining that listings focus and getting some help. Remember number 12, the fastest path to netting $1 million is clear your head and start hiring someone talented every 90 days. Well, when you get too many buyers that you can't service properly, you go back to number 12 and say, okay, there's my first opportunity to hire somebody. Who am I going to hire to handle my overflow of buyers? Who am I going to hire to take some of these buyer leads that I have that I'm simply unable to cultivate? And instead of having them fall through the cracks and go and get sold by somebody else, I'll maintain control of that lead and either refer it out for a referral fee or have someone help me in my business. See the difference? It's a really important difference, just by the way. Number 27. Go ahead, John.
Residential agents don't talk about investment opportunities, so our clients don't think that we do that.
Yeah.
And then go and seek out a commercial agent for help with investments. Let's change that.
That's 100% true. Most of our databases don't think that we can help them with investment properties because they think it's a commercial transaction. And so they go find commercial people to do that. It's because we're not having the right conversations at the right times into our databases so that the people who know us, like us, and trust us also recognize that we can help them grow wealth through real estate, not just sell them or help them buy their primary residence. Think bigger and bigger things come your way. Number 28. Go ahead, I mean.
Read MREA and MREI again.
So I want you to read, if you've never read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, by the way, in case you've never seen that book, it looks something like what Donna's holding up. Something like that. We call it the Red Book. It's The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Guys, it's just a blueprint for how to make a whole ton of money in real estate. When you're building a house, do you just start throwing up 2x4s and 2x6s and hope that structurally it makes sense so that you can put the roof on and it doesn't fall down on your kids? No, of course not. You follow a blueprint. This is just the blueprint for your success in real estate. And oh, by the way, the blue book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, that's just the blueprint for making a whole ton of money in real estate investment. And even if that's not your deal, the first third of this book talks about money management before you even get to the investing side. So minimally read through the first third of this book. Both written by Gary Keller, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Millionaire Real Estate Investor. We've probably got 9 or 10 books for you to read between now and like the weekend already. So get going. All right, we're almost done. Is everyone excited? All right, I don't know who's ready. Looks like Cal's ready. Okay, 29, Cal. And then Frank, bring us home.
The definition of profitability is that you have money left over to fund business growth and investments.
There you go, right? We kind of covered that at the beginning. Profit means that there's money left over and you take that money and you fund the growth of your business and you buy assets to grow wealth. That's the whole idea of being profitable. Frank, bring us home, number 30.
All right. The whole idea of capping is that you get to keep 30% more money to invest and grow wealth. Go.
Praise Buddha. Guys, here's the deal. Capping, everyone knows what capping is, right? At some point in our economic model, you earn enough where you stop paying the company, right? And you go from that 70-30 split to 100-0. You earn 100% of the commissions. The whole idea of that is so that you build a life based on the 70 and then get to the 100 as fast as possible. Year after year, you create systems that allow you to cap sooner and sooner and sooner. So that every single time you get paid, we're paying you the 70%, which you've built a life and a business around, plus an extra 30% every single closing that you're capped, so that you then have those extra funds to go and figure out what assets you're going to purchase to help you grow wealth. The idea of being in business at Keller Williams Realty is only partially about building a real estate career. It's crazy important to me and to the leadership of our offices that you also earn at a level that you start buying and investing, asset building, wealth building, to create a life that creates freedom for you. Believe it or not, even though we only make money when you sell houses, our goal is for you to not sell houses until like you're 87 years old. That's not the point. I mean, unless you choose to. If you choose to do that, that's different. But if you choose at some point to sell houses to fund your asset growth and your wealth building opportunity, and then graduate yourself out of your business and have someone else run it. So now you're having some income come from your listings and sales business, but you're not going out and actually selling the property. See how that all is a bigger picture than just focusing on where's my next listing coming from. Let's start there. Let's start on where's my next listing coming from. Let's start on where's my next buyer coming from. But recognize that our goal for you and the reason our compensation model is created in such a way, the way that it is to encourage you to get there fast. We want you to be earning at 100% for as much of the year as possible. It means you've maxed out what you've paid us, so we're happy because that's the arrangement, that's the deal. And then you get to go and figure out how to invest those funds and grow a bigger life. That's exciting. I don't know about the rest of you. That gives me all tingles. Woo, baby. Any comments or questions on this list? I know it was long, but it was long for a reason.
Can we get a copy of that list?
You absolutely can.
Thank you.
You absolutely can. Yes, I will email that out first thing tomorrow morning, just to the entire office. So watch for it.
Okay.
I purposely don't give that out ahead of time because I want that to be just for us, at least for a smidge. But then we'll give it to everybody else tomorrow morning. So you can grab that from email. Any comments on it? Any questions on it? Any ahas from it? God, I hope so. Any ahas you want to share? Go ahead, Donna.
So to me, the ahas I always have when we go through this list is that it's a mindset change. It really is going from being an employee to being a business owner. And that's a turn. I mean, a lot of us didn't grow up thinking that. We thought we'd get a great job and all that kind of stuff. And now you're going to run a business and the limits are limitless.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. What else? Anybody else? Ahas from that list? Hello, is this thing on? Hello? Yes, Frank.
I think in addition to that, it's not so much about doing the work as much as the farming, the work, the preparing, the lead generation specifically. It's not so much about the real estate itself. It's, working off of Donna's words too, the mindset. So yeah, that's, I think, the biggest aha.
Yeah, I love that, Frank. Thank you for bringing that to the table. There's a reason, guys, why in each of our locations, in really big letters, it says, think bigger, right? There's a reason for that. The first reason is because I have a very short memory. So I like to remind myself to constantly think bigger. So I decided to put it on the wall. The second reason is because we want each of you, every time you see it, to say, oh yeah, what's the bigger version of this? I can tell you, after 17 years of partnership inside of this organization, every time I think that I am at a place where I just can't possibly think any bigger, something gets done or said, and I think to myself, oh man, now my head hurts again. I finally thought I got on top of the think big mountain, and Gary says something, or somebody, or one of the mega agents across the country will have shown, here's how they're doing something. I think, oh man, that's brilliant. I'm going to go and put that in place now. How am I doing that? Right? Think bigger, bigger, and bigger. And what's cool is that the bigger you think, the more room you make for bigger results. And then bigger results start to show up. It's kind of fun. Everybody smile because it's fun. There we go. My goodness, some of you look like you just lost your best friend. We got to liven things up a little bit. Might have to take a break and do some calisthenics. Go ahead, Dave.
No, in combining this list with stuff that Gary said in his video, is all these tools and mantras are very powerful, but they do nothing for you if they just sit on that paper without you executing on them. And that's one of the things I thought of the whole time.
100%. Thank you for saying that, because it's 1,000% true, right? And sometimes we get stuck in what works, right? Here's what works: the thing that you'll actually do and do consistently. What doesn't work? All the stuff you don't do. That's the stuff that doesn't work. And sometimes we get so like crazy about, am I doing the right thing? Gary said something a couple of weeks ago that I just loved. It was a conversation about how do you eat an elephant, right? How do you eat an elephant? Well, the answer, of course, is one bite at a time. But Gary took it one step further, because the follow-up question to that was, well, okay, so if we eat the elephant one bite at a time, then I'm confused about, like, where do I start? Where do I start eating? And his response was, if you're going to eat the whole elephant, who cares? Just start eating. Take a bite. Right? It's called Let's Not Stand in Our Own Way. Because that happens sometimes. Okay, Christy.
Just coming from the world of corporate, knowing that, like, you're kind of at corporate mercy, where they have to agree what salary they're going to pay you. When and if you get a raise, you can ask, they'll decide if they'll give it to you. But here, as Donna had said before, it really is limitless. How much you earn or don't earn is based on the activities you do or don't do. So you can decide to earn more, and you don't have to wait for corporate to say, yes, we approve.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Know why? Because you're corporate. It's just you. It's you and only you. You get to make the decisions, and then you get to go and fuel the decisions, right? You get to actually go and do the do. Who else? Donna, and then Julie.
So just going back to what Christy just said, and where you started at the beginning, where we're both the CEO and the sole employee, we actually do get to ask those questions. How much money do I want to make? What bonus do I want? And I think we're getting ready to do it next month when we do all our business planning sessions. That's when we actually get to decide how much money we're going to make next year.
Yeah, so true, right? Because we need to know that now, because quarter four's activities actually fuel quarter one's income. So just PS, if anyone has a thought that they're going to actually make money in real estate starting in January, the activities that you do right this very minute and through the next 90 days are what fuel all of that. We live in a 90-day delay. You know how the Super Bowl is oftentimes like on a 7-second delay in case the performer during halftime curses? If you didn't know they did that, they do that, just by the way. We're in a 90-day delay in what we do. So all of those activities that you're focusing on starting right now are what starts to fund the very end of the year and then all of Q1. That's an important concept to keep in the forefront of your mind. Julie.
I wanted to touch base on the point about profits. The business is driven for profit. I was doing John Henry's questionnaire, and the first thing it asks is, how much do you want to make? So in my employee mind, I was like thinking about a salary, right? And then she goes, oh no, you multiply that and you add all of these expenses and the split and everything else. And I was like, so you actually need to make this much. And that just like completely changed my whole outlook on my income, because I never thought about it as a business owner. I always had the employee mindset. So it's like changing little by little, and it's amazing to witness even for myself.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for A, well done, right? Great job. And B, the business owner mentality does have to look at it from kind of 30,000 feet, right? Not just 10,000 feet, because the income, you can kind of look at income at 10,000 feet. And yet Jen's right. We're actually going to do an exercise before we finish today to help you see X amount of dollars as an income is kind of the middle number. You have to gross that up to figure out what your big top number is. And then once you figure out the top number, you have to take that number and then figure out based on a formula how many units you have to sell to actually make that much money, right? It's just math, right? You should write this down. The path is in the math. So we just do the math to help us figure it out. And yet Julie's 100% right, right? It's not about, remember the check that you get at the closing is what you earn. A lot of people think, oh no, that's not what I earn. I have to bring that to the office. And then what I earn is what the office pays me. No, that's untrue. You are a business owner. You are an independent contractor. When you have a $10,000 closing, guess what? You've earned $10,000. The fact that you pay a portion of that to Keller Williams Realty is an expense to your business. And I want you to hear this really loud and clear. It's massively important to me that you recognize that we are an expense to your business, because when you recognize that, you get to hold your affiliation with us accountable to the money that you're spending. We know that we have to show up every day and provide value to you to help you grow and earn more. If we don't provide value, at some point, you're going to go to the closing, get your $10,000 check and say, oh, why am I writing a $3,000 check? Even though you don't really write the check to Keller Williams Realty, right? You get my point. Why is $3,000 of this $10,000 going to them? What are they providing to me? As a business owner, I encourage you to ask that question. I will tell you, I am probably the only broker in the United States that will say that to you out loud. But as business partners, Donna Doyle will tell you. Did you ever hear that in a previous company, Donna? Right? And here's the reason. Because partnership is massively important to us. And partners talk to each other differently. Partners tell each other the truth. Partners hold each other accountable. Partners want the best for each other, not only when it's convenient, but always, right? And so recognize that you knowing full well that we are an expense to your business only has us show up bigger and better every single day. Because you get to vote with your feet. If you decide that we're not worth the cap that you end up paying us each year, you get to vote with your feet. There are lots of other brokerages, right? We would prefer you didn't vote with your feet, which is why we do the work to make sure that we provide value. But as business owners, as Julie brought to the table, as business owners, that's an important distinction. I lost Julie someplace. I don't know where she went. Oh, there she is. Okay. My little Brady Bunch screens changed around and you were over here and now you're over there. You moved from like Cindy Brady to Ann B. Davis as Alice, just in my screen. Looking around, some of you are way too young to even know what I'm talking about. Google the Brady Bunch and watch the opening and you'll get it. All right. Anything else before we move on? I think there was one more person who was unmuted.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think wasting time was also a big point, that we need to work on, like, every moment trying to grow our business. As employees, we clock in, it's a 9 to 5 thing, but I feel like if we're doing business, it needs to be kind of more than that. And there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Right. I'll tell you, for those of you coming from a job, like a show up 9 to 5 job, the mindset shift of business ownership can sometimes be difficult. And it's also one of the coolest awakenings that you will have. Right. You just start to show up and think, oh, man, you know what? This is all in my control. I get to create the outcome here. I get 110% credit for all the cool stuff that happens. Just remember, you also get to take 110% responsibility for anything else that might show up, right? Because it's all on you. The good news is that you have us as a support system underneath. So it's all on you. However, it's all on you with a whole lot of shoulder underneath you, right? It's the benefit to belonging to a larger organization, and one that focuses in on supporting you and creating success for you. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to second that because I'm actually at work right now, and I've been here since 9:30, and I still got like another 2 hours because one of my coworkers didn't come in, so I'm like in like one of the little like rooms here at my job. But it's still, trying to get on this call. Like I've been reading a lot and like shifting my mindset, and so like as I'm transitioning into real estate, it's like I'm kind of like analyzing how my own brain is like shifting from like employee clocking in to my own boss. Like, and I'm just like, like watching it all, observing it all.
I love it. I love it. And I do hope that you're allowed to be in that room off by yourself at your job. I don't want to be responsible for all of a sudden John gets like the axe. So be cautious. All right. Shall we move forward? We all good? All right. I know that that's a lot of head work, right? That's an hour and 20 minutes of kind of talking through your head. However, your head and getting your head in the right spot is probably more important work than learning the listing consultation, learning the buyer consultation. Because if your head's not in the right spot, you can learn all that stuff, all the skill work about real estate, and still not make the money that you want to make. Because your head will hold you back, even if you have all the skills in place, right? So we purposely spend a whole lot of time on that, especially in session number 1. We're going to take the next 3 sessions to go through the 6 personal perspectives. We will do 2 personal perspectives, which is in your materials at the beginning opening of each of our sessions together over the course of the next 3. So it's just a little bit more mindset work in the start of our time together, and then we'll pivot faster into our skill-based material. Well, what I'd like to do with you for the remainder of our time today is talk with you a little bit about money. Anybody want to talk about money? It's one of my favorite things to talk about, just by the way. I do love a good money conversation. And this money conversation is going to be, how do you, as business owners, take the amount of money that you're looking to earn from real estate and turn it into activities, right? Because the idea of your activities being connected to your results shouldn't be a big shocker to anyone, right? What you do ultimately creates what you get, right? Different than what you wish for, right? Because what you wish for doesn't necessarily, I wished to be 6'2". That didn't happen, right? 5'9" came and went, and somebody decided that's all he gets, right? Those of you taller than 6'2", you got some of mine, I think. So I wish you could share it back, but hey, you know what? Make do with what you get. My point is, you just can't wish it. you've got to understand what it is, what you desire, and then translate it using the formula we're going to put on the screen for you, translate it into some activities. So, oh look, my head is gone. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn off my camera so that you don't have to stare at my belly button. The second thing we're going to do is go to the whiteboard. Christy, do you see the whiteboard? Yes? Okay, thank you. I can only see a few of you now, so I will call on those I can see to make sure that we're getting the right stuff on the screen. So let's do this. What I want to do with you is just kind of talk you through a formula about getting from where you desire to earn to activities. And so we need a couple of things first. We need a couple of either knowns or unknowns, depending on who you are. If you're new to the business, these will be unknowns for you. And so I'm going to just simply give you some of the market center's averages. If you're experienced and on this call, and experience to me is you have at least 2 full years of business under your belt, you may know what these numbers are in your business, right? They may be different, higher or lower than the averages that we're going to use in the example. So if you have at least 2 years of business, of experience under your belt, take your last 2 years and calculate these numbers based on what you really did. For everyone else, we're going to use the averages. Now, I do have a warning. I do not have the nicest handwriting on the planet. So you'll have to just suffer through trying to read what I'm writing. I will go slowly and do the best that I can. But as Olympia Dukakis said to Shirley MacLaine in Steel Magnolias, you have the handwriting of a serial killer. That's my handwriting, sorry. Okay, so number one, we're going to work with some assumptions. And assumption number one is, what is your average sale price? Again, market center averages have grown over the last couple of 12 to 18 months. And so market center averages right now are closer to 500,000 than they've ever been, right? So we can simply use that as an average sale price, right? Now, again, this is just an example. If your numbers are going to be different, if you know you work a market where 500 is really the top end and your numbers are going to be smaller, well, then maybe you work with 250 or 300. I'm going to give you the formula. You can plug your numbers in. The other thing you need from an assumption perspective is you need to know your average commission rate. And by that, I mean, when you sell a house, do you earn 3% or 2% or 2.5%? What is that commission rate that keeps showing up in your business? Now, on the list side, you get more control over that than perhaps you do on the buy side. We're going to talk about some control that you have on the buy side in our buyer unit. However, if everyone will just kind of trust that market center averages are right in that 2.5% zone, we'll just use that, right? Now, so $500,000 as a average sale price multiplied by 2.5% as an average commission rate gives you your third assumption. And that is your average commission that you earn each time you have a closing. So on average, when you have a closing, what is the gross amount of income? Those two together are $12,500. Yes? Everyone with me so far? Right? So those are the assumptions that you need. Then we go to, what is it you'd like to earn? That thing that looks more like a kangaroo or something is an E. Sorry about that. What is it you want to earn? Now, here's where Julie's conversation comes into play, right? Because we're going to work with a gross commission income number. Now your gross number is the number that shows up at the closing table each time. It's not how much you end up putting in your pocket. We're not talking about profit. That's a different conversation. So let's take a side conversation and say, if you want to earn, I'm just going to pick a number, $100,000. What are the things, and you can just unmute and kind of shout these out because I can't see the chat right now. What are the things you have to take into consideration and build back into that to make sure that you end up with $100,000?
Taxes.
So taxes, absolutely. What else?
The percent that goes to the market center.
Right, right. So let's just call it a 70-30 split. So 30% has to go to the market center. What else?
And that 6% amount.
Yes, and so there's royalty as well, capped at 3,000. Yep.
Advertising.
Yeah, so you may have business expenses, right, that you want to make sure that you cover, so that this 100,000 perhaps shifts over and becomes the salary that you send over to the personal you, right, from the business. Again, just giving you an example. And so let's decide, right, $100,000 is a tough number because it's just under where the 70-30 split would create a cap. But let's just take, right, $30,000, right? I know our cap right now is a little bit higher than that, but let's just take $30,000 as an example and the $3,000 royalty, right? So let's just say, call this your company dollar that you've paid to the market center. This is the royalty that you paid to KW, and you add those back in. That's 133,000 you have to earn in order for you to end up with this 100. Let's say your expenses are 10 or 15%, right? So 15% of that is about what? 15 or 18K business expenses. Does that sound like a fair addition to run your business for a year, right? So 133 plus 18 is going to be 151, right? 151,000. You then have to gross it up for taxes. And so let's just assume 30% for taxes, right? Does that make sense? So 151,000 divided by 0.7, which is the part you keep, grosses this up to about 215, right? So $215,000, you then get to pay your taxes, you get to pay your expenses, you get to pay the market center. That leaves you with this $100,000. Everyone with me? Right, so it's just looking at your money realistically. So that $100,000 that seems like such a great idea is an awesome idea. You just have to recognize that you have to gross about 215 to bring away that 100. Make sense? And the good news is Uncle Sam is paid and your business expenses are paid and you still come up with $100,000. So now let's bring this 215 back over to here in what we're looking to earn. Well, we have $2 signs, that's okay. So if we're looking to earn $215,000, this number here, the average commission per side closed, now becomes important, right? We take that number here and we divide this $215,000 by the 12.5, which is the average amount of money we make every time we close a piece of business. So $215,000 divided by 12,500 is 17.2. What do we do when we have a decimal? We round that sucker up, right? I know mathematically 17.2 is really 17, but in Rick's world of building your business, we take anything that's point anything and we round it up to help you build a cushion, right? That's what it's there for. It helps you build that cushion. So we have 18. what did we just figure out? That's 18 what?
Homes.
Units sold, right? It's 18 houses that you actually got sold. In order at 12.5 per side to come up with that 215,000. Everyone with me?
Yes.
Okay. Once we know how many units we have to sell, would it be helpful to understand how many actual appointments we need to go on in order to get that number of units sold? Say yes. The answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to trust me when I tell you that we've taken the economic model out of the MREA and we've condensed it to a version that is a simpler number, right? Based on average conversion rates, you, on the list side, need to have 4 appointments in order to take 2 listings in order to sell 1. Now, currently, or at least in the last 12 months, you had to work really hard not to sell your listing, right? So perhaps that 50% number on the list side, right this very moment in time, is a little bit out of whack. However, the market will not stay the way it has been forever. And so I want you to utilize numbers that really point you in a direction of market normalcy and build your business around market normalcy instead of building your business based on the Flash Gordon style business market that we've seen for the last 12 months, right? So 4 to 1 is the ratio on the list side. On the buy side, it's a little bit better. You need to have 3 appointments in order to be hired by 2 people in order to sell one of them a house, right? That doesn't.
Can you do that again?
Yes. So on the buy side, it's a 3 to 1 ratio. You need to have 3 appointments in order to sign 2 buyers in order to sell one of them a house. Now on the buy side, some of you are thinking, yeah, we might need like 15 appointments to sign 14 buyers and sell one of them a house, right? Because remember, we do not have an inventory shortage. I had this conversation the other day. What we have is a massive glut of buyers. Because if you look at the numbers in Fairfield County for the past 5 or 6 years, we actually have the same number of listings as we've always had. So we don't have an inventory shortage. We actually have a surplus of buyers that makes it feel like there's an inventory shortage, just to be clear. So 4 to 1 on the list side, 3 to 1 on the buyer side. What all that goes on to say is 18 units sold, you have to multiply that number by 3.5, if I can make a decimal, by 3.5. Again, 4 to 1 on the list side, 3 to 1 on the buyer side. If you merge the 2 together, you get 3.5 to 1. So 18 multiplied by 3.5 gives you 63. And that's 63 what?
Appointments.
Right? And I want us to be clear, that's 63 new appointments. What I mean by a new appointment is if Christy meets me for the first time as a buyer on Sunday and takes me out, right? I hire her, she takes me out and sees a couple of properties. Well, that's 1 new appointment with a buyer. If she then takes me out again on Wednesday, that's not another new appointment. I'm now an old appointment. She needs a new buyer if she's looking for a second new appointment for the week. So that's 63 new appointments in what period of time? That's an entire year, right? So now we need to break that down into what does that look like every week? Well, I encourage you to take that 63 appointments number and divide it by the number of weeks that you work. Now, maximally for everyone on this call, it's going to be 48 weeks because nobody works 52 weeks a year. I know there are 52 weeks in a year, but I want you to think about Thanksgiving week or a different holiday week. I want you to think about the vacation you take in August, right? There are weeks that you're not really working. So 48 is really the maximum number. I really personally think it's more like 46, but we can use 48, right? So 63 divided by 48, if you do that math, you get 1.3. And so there's that decimal again. So what do we know we have to do with that? We bring it up to 2. And that's 2 new appointments every single week. Yes, no, maybe so. But I'm going to stop that screen share for a minute. And let me ask you questions, comments, concerns about the math we just did. Do you understand it?
I have a question.
Yes, Ronnie.
No, I'm just I know you said something about the 4-to-1 and the 3-to-1. Was it 4 appointments for every 1 listing? Tell me what.
Yeah, so it's 4-to-1 on the listing side. We pull that down to 3-to-1 on the buyer side.
Okay, and you just took an average of the.
So we just averaged the 2 together since your business is going to be both listings and buyers.
Right.
And made that 3.5 to 1. Yep.
And those numbers come from.
They come from the MREA economic model.
Okay.
The economic model walks you through different conversion rates.
Okay.
And what we did was, and I can tell you, it's page. I'll find the page. It's page something in the MREA. If you're looking for the actual numbers.
Back.
See, I brought you the television version of this book. My book has, oh, here it is. Page 183. So page 183 in the MREA will give you the actual conversion rates. We just took all of that and mathematically boiled it down to make it simpler so that you didn't have to go with all the different conversion rates. My appointment to my listing ratio, my listing taken to listing sold ratio. We kind of just boiled it all down to what if we just averaged the 2 and took a look at what most people are doing, and that came out to 3.5 to 1. It just saves a whole lot of math, right? Anybody else have questions or comments on what we just did? Yes, John.
So back to when we were doing the breaking down the numbers to get to 215. So I had 100,000 gross plus the 30,000 split plus the 3,000 royalty plus the 18,000 as business expense. But then the number in between from there to get to 215, I didn't catch.
Yeah, so the net number will be, just so we're using the right terms, the net number is going to be the 100, and we're going to gross that up to the 215. And so let me just pop it back on the screen because I don't remember either. Let me take a look.
It was 30% taxes.
It was the taxes.
Oh yes, taxes. Yeah, we went from 151 and we grossed it up by 30% to 215 for taxes. Thank you for that, guys. What else? Donna, did you have a question?
Me, Donna?
Yes, ma'am.
It was great to see that breakdown. That really helped me a lot to visualize what I need to do. That was great.
Yeah, so it's the really cool part is when you do that, right? And I encourage you guys, go and play with those numbers, right? Go and figure out, what does that look like for you, right? What does it look like? I know it's September the 20, whatever, right? What if you just decided to look 12 months ahead? Don't get caught in the idea that you have to finish 2021 and start building your goals for 2022. We'll do all of that. What I started to do a couple of years ago was just plant myself in today and start to plan out where I want to see myself 12 months from now. So my goals now are a rolling 12 months from my actual day of living right this very moment. And then I focus on them only 90 days at a time, right? So what does the next 12 months look like for me? Where do I want to be a year from now? Or else what I find is that we start to get dismissive of the fourth quarter which is a mistake, right? Because the first quarter depends on your activities in the fourth quarter. And so when we have these calendar annual goals, we get dismissive of our activities in the fourth quarter. And then we start to panic in the first quarter, right? Because it's winter and we're not having the closings and the money's different. And you can't go back in your little hot tub time machine to the fourth quarter and do the activities different. So now you're doing the activities in the first quarter, which shows up in the second quarter. But you still have, I mean, unless you guys have a different bank system than I do, my mortgage company wants to get paid every single month, regardless of whether I have a closing, right? Curse those banks, but they do, right? The bills show up. And so creating a business that is steadier and always recognizing that you're 90 days out from the activities that you're doing, where I think the math shows up is you can start to create consistency. That math says that if I'm going to close 200K or so in gross, I need to focus on 2 new appointments every single week for every week that I work. And it just simplifies everything. It removes all the distraction. I will tell you that I have coached agents who were $100,000 a year gross agents to $300,000 to $400,000 a year gross agents consistently now. And they did that in about an 18-month period of time, moved from the 100,000 to the 350 or so. This year, they'll probably do about 370. Focusing only on, we did that math, and what we focused them on every single week was hitting that new appointment number. Your business activities now show up as, what am I doing to hit that appointment number? Every activity you bring to the table, you have to ask yourself the question, okay, is that activity bringing me closer to hitting that 2 a week? I'm hosting an open house. What's the goal of the open house? I will tell you that many real estate agents, 80 or better % of real estate agents, say the goal of the open house is to drive traffic, like get a lot of people. Guys, what if the target goal of the open house was to find 1 new appointment? If you have 17 people come through the open house and they're all represented or unable to purchase, is it still a successful open house? Right? If you have 1 person show up at the open house based on the traffic you drive, and that 1 person is unrepresented, has cash in hand, and is looking for a real estate agent to go and buy a house, and you have that appointment then either right after the open house, or if it's that slow, hey, have the appointment during the open house, have the buyer consult. If no one else is coming, you might as well spend your time wisely, right? Someone told us before not to waste time, so let's just go ahead and get it done. And then take that person out the next day or that afternoon. Well, now you've created an appointment opportunity. What if you started to judge whether or not an activity makes sense to repeat based on how often it kicks out a new appointment? You know how many people I know who do open houses because they think that's what real estate agents do on Sundays? I'm just saying, if you're hosting open houses and you're not obtaining on average at least 1 new appointment from each of those open houses, we either have to re-examine the kinds of open houses you're hosting, re-examine the scripts you're using, re-examine your follow-up system, or decide to pivot away from open houses for you as a lead generation source.
Return on investment.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Ronnie. You're looking for a return on the investment in time. And it's too easy in our industry to think that we do these things because that's just what realtors do. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Guys, that's crap. That's not really strategically thinking like a business owner. A business owner looks at that and says, why am I going to keep doing that? It's like going to the doctor and saying, doctor, it hurts when I do this. Well, the doctor's going to tell you, stop doing that. suddenly it doesn't hurt. Right? So would it be okay, now that we've done that math, if we spend the rest of our time together helping you figure out how to hit your number, helping you have a conversation around source of business that says, you know what, I know my number is 1, or my number is 2, or my number is 3, or my number is 7, whatever your number happens to be, right? You'll do your own math. And oh, by the way, there's one other, you know what I just realized? So Nacho, who's behind you?
Silvano.
See, it only says De La Cruz. I kept looking at the person behind you, and it was weird to me that every single time Silvano kind of stretched or raised his arms, the person behind you did the same exact thing. We've been doing this for an hour and a half now, and I finally just figured out it's because you're both in the same room. Okie dokie. Well, hello to both of you. So now I feel a little foolish, and yet, you know what? 2 years on Zoom, you'd think I'd know by now. So where was I? So we can actually focus you then in on what are the sources of business out there? What are your options to find business? And then you get to decide what of those sources of business am I going to focus on to make sure I hit my number. It's not a guessing game, guys. It's a strategy. It's a business plan. You have to decide what that number is. And oh, by the way, for those of you who do the math and come up with a number that's less than 1, remember, any decimal you round up. So it's not like you have one new appointment every other week. No, that doesn't work. You round that up to 1, which means the minimum number of new appointments you're going to have as a real estate professional, right? Remember, you signed up to do this to support yourself, to make money, to build a life, and then to build a big life, cap, and then take that extra money and go and invest and build wealth. And so your path becomes different when you're focused on what is my number. You will judge activities differently based on their results. I hope. Any other comments, questions, or ahas from the math that we just did? Okay, so homework piece number 1. Yes, Dave.
Do those numbers stay consistent regardless of the price of the property? In other words, is it harder based on the metrics to secure, say, a $2 million property as opposed to a $200,000 property?
So that's a great question. Are you asking about, do the conversion rates change, or keep asking your question? I want to be sure I'm answering it.
No, I mean, actually, yes, I was asking if the conversion rates that you mentioned, like the 4 appointments to 1 listing and 3 appointments to 1 buyer, but so that's not just a conversion rate, but the amount of appointments you've got to go on. So I guess
the interesting thing in this business is that if we're saying that properties went up, I'm just making it up, but let's say in Ridgefield they went up 25%, then actually to achieve the same thing from what people did last year, they got to go on less appointments to achieve the same thing because the prices of the homes have gone up 25%. So they can achieve the same thing by doing less this year, because the average price, let's say, I'm paying $500,000 last year. If the average price of a home goes up and the ratios remain the same, then they're doing less appointments to get the same volume.
Yeah, so let's dissect
that.
I
get that if you're going after the same pricing, but say one year you were targeting, whether it's targeted just happens to be going after $500,000 houses, but then you try to focus in the next year on the luxury market where you're really going to structure your marketing and try to secure multi-million-dollar listings. The conversions remain the same.
Then it's going to be less homes to be sold.
Yeah. So
well, I get that, but my point is the closing rate. That's what I guess I'm trying to ask. The closing rate. Is it as easy to close a $2 million listing as is a $200,000 or $500,000 listing? That's, I guess, the question. Sorry to be unclear.
Yeah. So the answer ultimately is it depends, right? The entire conversation that you guys just had, the answer is it depends. Is it easier to close something in the lower ranges? Well, it depends on the market, right? The answer for the past 12 months has been no, it's all been the same, right? Depending on the value proposition that you have built, you personally may struggle obtaining a certain price point in listings, but that has nothing to do with these numbers or the market. It has to do with what you've built, right?
Gotcha.
And the reality of what Ronnie was saying is if the price points are rising, that's less relevant than if your price points are rising, right? If the average price of a home goes up, and yet your focal point is on the lower end of the market, well, yes, certainly the lower end of the market has gone up the same percentage, and yet we're working on averages that have that $500,000 average. If the price points across the board have gone up by 10, 15, 25%, whatever that number might be locally, and your averages are still 300 or 350, well, using that average of $500,000 and 2.5%, you're still going to be too high, even if the numbers have come up, right? So again, recognize that the market, really what I'm hearing you guys talk about is how does the market itself affect me? And my answer to that is the market itself should only serve to benefit you because all boats rise with the tide, right? What you have to work on now is the tide is about as high as it's been in my lifetime. Certainly in my professional career of 22 or whatever it is years, it's the highest tide we've ever seen. As the tide recedes, do you expect to stay here? Or do you expect your business to recede as the tide recedes? That has everything to do with value proposition and the activities you focus on. Donna, what else?
So I was just thinking about that question as well. And it has been my understanding, it's been my belief, it has proven out to me that your conversion rate to get an appointment or to get a contract signed is directly related to the level of skill and confidence you have in your scripts and in your objection handling. And that makes more of a difference than whatever price point you're going through. Rick is going to go through all kinds of scripts that we're going to practice and that sort of thing. But that idea of showing up and being the one is not just because you're all fancy and dressed up and everything. It's because you know how to lead your clients from one place to another in a process that they understand and they feel confident that you know what you're doing.
Brilliantly said, Donna.
That's why she's here. Hey, Donna, I'm curious. Do you know what number time this is for you in terms of your 8 sessions of Ignite?
I know you think I'm kidding, but I would think I'm getting close to 20.
I think that has to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know what? Can you stay off mute for a second? Can you tell everybody why? Like, are you just a slow learner? I mean,
that could be. And yet here, and I will tell you why. It was, said earlier when we were going through that list of things, the fundamentals never go out of style. And I don't know about you, but you may find out that regularly I need to be reminded, and I need to be reminded what I need to do and why I need to do it and the results it will give me. And I want to practice the scripts. I want to hear the language. When you hear Rick do the listing presentation, I want to tell you, take that to heart. I come back every time for that one piece, everything else, but that one piece, it's masterful. It really has changed my conversion rate in going after listings. Let's just start there. But it's just The training is there, it's available, and I don't know why everyone isn't here, frankly.
Got it.
Is that enough? I could go on and on, but we'll leave it there.
Excellent. John, did you have something for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna say something. Kind of say like apply what Donna was saying to like my experience. So like one of my jobs, which is the one I'm at now, is K Jewelers, and so like we offer like a lifetime warranty with all like the jewelry pieces in the store. And from what I noticed, like in my almost a year here, like it's a lot harder to sell someone like an insurance, like the lifetime warranty on the like, you know, the cheaper like $100 pieces than it is on like a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 engagement ring. And it just, as she said, like overcoming objections, like you really have to know like why is this like lifetime warranty of value or what it provides to the customer. Because when you get down to like, you know, the $200,000 houses or the, you know, $100 pieces of jewelry, it's just like, how do you overcome objections? How do you, you know, provide that value? How do you show the customer that this is worth something worth having? Because when you have a, you know, a $2 million house or like a $5,000 engagement ring, they'll buy the lifetime warranty. They wouldn't even look at the price. Like lifetime warranty, yeah, put it on there. And they just, you know, assume that it's already of value. But like once you get lower down, it's like lower numbers. That's when you really have to know your scripts, know what you're providing, know like be confident in what you're saying. And so yeah, that's what I've noticed from working here in K Jewelry. But I know jewelry and house is a different thing, but the principles.
The idea is the same. And you know what, you know, so I love that, John. And here's the thing, when you know how to handle it, when you know of what you're speaking, you know your numbers, you know how to find motivation, when you know all of that because you've done it, you've practiced it with your peers, when people ask you a question, you will truly say, and you will mean it, thank you for asking that question, may I explain? You'll be excited to show them in that way, you know, to answer their question and give them that comfort level.
Yeah, love it. Christy and then Debbie.
Yeah, just piggybacking on all of what they said, I'm thinking how the very first time that I went out to show a property, I think it was a rental property, and I had a key fob and wasn't exactly sure how it all worked. And I can remember feeling so nervous just to even open the door because I wasn't used to it. And then over time, of course, you do that all the time. Who goes out and is nervous about opening one of the electronic key boxes? No one, because you just get comfortable doing it because you've done it enough, which speaks to how many times Donna has taken Ignite, what she's saying about the scripts and all of that. Once you do that, you just have a level of comfort because you've done it, you get good at it. And the confidence is there. And that definitely conveys when you're nervous and your hands are trembling, opening up a door, or when you go there and you actually know how the unit works. Everyone trusts that you know what you're doing because you're confident.
Yeah, so true. And I'm going to pledge to you all here on this first day that we will spend as much time as humanly possible practicing, not just kind of reading through, but dividing you out into groups of 3 in breakout rooms so that you can spend 10 or 15 minutes, right? Time is always an issue in this course, always. I purposely built another weekend this time to make sure that we have the time to really give you the opportunity to do what Christy just said, and that's practice a bit so that you get more confidence, right? You're going to have some homework that's going to be pair up or find someone to practice with, so that you have confidence when we come back and practice with each other. But you will get some classroom time to practice some of these objection handlers, to practice some scripts, to just work with each other, not for 45 minutes, but for 10 or 15, right? So that you at least get to say the words and be able to come back and ask some questions around the words. So I do make that pledge to you. We didn't quite work it in last time, and I've decided that it's a non-negotiable for us this time, right? Debbie.
And mine is a plug and a preview for the program that I am offering to all of you to understand the practical aspects of command. And we're starting tomorrow at 3 o'clock on this Zoom channel. So it's my KW Zoom room with contacts, because everything begins with contacts. And what I want to do once a week, Wednesday. Well, it's going to be Tuesdays at 3, but tomorrow it's this week, it's Wednesday at 3. Show you the nitty gritty of command so you can use it in your, as you're building your business, to communicate with the people who are important to you about your business. So
100%.
Join me at 3 and get started with the process. You're going to want to have your contacts in a good spot for what's coming up in the next month.
Yeah, so thank you, Debbie, because that is how we're ending this evening, right? Recognize that once a week, you're going to have an hour before me with Debbie to help you understand the technology tools that are available to you to do the things that we're going to be talking about in terms of building a database, communicating with your database, keeping track of your transactions, all of those things that are as important as understanding the skills you need to actually create income. These are tools that before you have that first administrator, Command can behave like your first administrator. So recognize that tomorrow at 3, and then, again, this was in the schedule that you all saw, right? Tomorrow at 3, and then each week after during Ignite, it's actually Tuesday at 3. I'll remind you on Thursday to come an hour earlier. It is part of your Ignite training. So don't skip out on it because it's important. It will be recorded just like each of our sessions is recorded, and it will be recorded separately from the Ignite session. So if you have to miss, we will record it and you can watch it on the YouTube channel that next morning. That being said, recognize that each of our sessions together from 4 to 6, each Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are also recorded. They're posted in the YouTube channel by that next morning. So if you miss it, check in the next morning. I will show you tomorrow where to go and find your materials, including a script book that you can download. We just kind of ran out of time today. So I will do that. If someone can just make a note and remind me first thing tomorrow, we'll go through the first 2 personal perspectives after Debbie finishes at 4 with your hour of command training, and then dive into where to go in KW Connect to find these materials, and then charge ahead with some conversations and script work so that you can understand the tools of your trade a little bit better. With that, I think, Donna, did you have one last question? Donna Doyle? No, I thought I saw you unmute. Okay, so guys, with that, we are at 6 o'clock. We're actually at 6:01. Thank you for the extra minute or 2. I hope this was helpful to you this evening. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4. Debbie looks forward to seeing you at 3, and we will continue to cruise forward. Have an awesome night. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is my pleasure.
Thank you.